Hello everyone, my name is Samik and welcome to my channel where I talk about multiple things. Today I'm going to talk about and review the movie No Time to Die. Me and my friends went to the theater after a very long time in this weekend and saw this movie. I'm gonna keep the theater experience aside and just objectively talk about the movie. So let's get into it. My overall opinion on the movie is that this is my second favorite James Bond movie by Daniel Craig. My all-time favorite is obviously Skyfall, and this is tied second place with Casino Royale. This is a very good movie and a very nice send-off. If you're not aware, this is actually the last James Bond movie that Daniel Craig is going to be in, and after this movie the character is going to get rebooted with someone else playing the character, hopefully after some time. So I don't know how to do a traditional review of the movie, so directly I'm going to go into some of the pros that I felt like the positives of the movie, and then I'll work with some of the cons or the negatives of the movie, and then I'll give a few cast shout outs and my final rating of the movie. So first positive is that watching this movie felt like I was watching a collection of sort of best of James Bond scenes. I felt like there were a lot of elements taken from Skyfall as well as from Spectre. Now I know the director of this movie is Cary Fukunaga, who is different from who directed Skyfall, but still it's the influences seem to be there, as in they know what worked and they try to replicate some of the scenes that was there in that movie. Now this is not a negative, I would say it is a positive, because this is what people want from James Bond, Daniel Craig's James Bond, and they are going to get whatever the best we have seen from the character in this movie itself. The next positive for this movie is that you are emotionally invested. You would be more invested if you actually know that this is the last James Bond movie. So some of the goodbyes or the parting messages that you see these characters are having, you know they are actually parting messages to the audience itself. This is the last time you're going to see Daniel Craig as James Bond, Ralph Fiennes as M, and all the cast together. This is the last time they're going to play those particular characters, and this movie is their final goodbye to the audience. So in this regard, the movie is very effective, and if you know this information beforehand, you will be very much emotionally invested in that. Okay, the next positive is that the cinematography. The cinematography of the James Bond movies, especially the last three, has been amazing, and it continues in this movie. The shots, the camera work, they are all phenomenal. This is a globe-trotting adventure like any James Bond movie, and you get to see the locales, especially in an IMAX screen, where the big screen accentuates all the great cinema or camera work that has been done for this movie. The next positive that I think of this movie is the very good action scenes. Throughout the movie, except for the last bit in the island, the final climax takes place in an island, and I'll put that as a negative point, but all the other action scenes throughout the movie, there are multiple of them, and all of them are really good, intense, good stunt work, good camera work, good acting from all of them. It's really what you expect from a good James Bond movie. You'll get all the action scenes in there. You get tons of gadgets, not as much as the older James Bonds, but again, Daniel Craig has never been one of the more tech savvy James Bonds that we have seen before, but this is really good for what it is, what it has been, and you'll get the best of James Bond action in most of the scenes. And the final positive for this movie, I would say, is there is a lot of good acting. You would not go to a James Bond movie expecting a lot of good acting or a lot of drama in the movie, but this movie actually, especially because this is the final Daniel Craig movie, everyone knows it, and they give their best performance. Some of the actors, especially Daniel Craig and Léa Seydoux, I'm not sure how her name is exactly pronounced, but both of them are fantastic in their roles. Rami Malek, for the very small part that he has in as the villain of the movie, there is no doubt that he is a great actor, and he delivers his lines perfectly. He is let down by the script and the writing of his dialogues and his character, but he understood what that director needed from him, and he delivered his best. So acting throughout the board has been pretty top notch, especially considering that this is a James Bond movie. Now moving on to the cons of the movie. So the cons would be, the first con that I felt, especially in some of the initial scenes and as well as towards the end in the island scene, Daniel Craig is a little old for this role. He is not, even though he is in a great shape, he is not in the like the perfect athletic shape that you expect James Bond to be in. He is showing his age whenever you have close-ups on his face, especially when he is not in a fight or something. You can clearly see that he's pretty old. He is pretty old for being this character, and in a way it works for the story that he is actually too old to be carrying on with the James Bond or the 007 moniker, but it's a little jarring for someone who is not used to seeing a very old James Bond in the role. Now we have seen Sean Connery playing this role till he was looking pretty old, but definitely Daniel Craig, within that few years that he has played, especially since he has not started at a very young age, it shows the difference. And when you compare Daniel Craig in Casino Royale and Daniel Craig in No Time to Die, there is a clear age difference between the person who started and the person who is ending this role. The next negative that I feel of this movie is with the villain. This has one of the weakest villain scripts that I've seen of any James Bond movie, like whatever I've seen throughout the ages. The character that Rami Malek is playing, this character is shown to be pretty much a psycho. He's not in his right mind, and I have no idea someone who is so mentally disturbed can rise to such a leadership position. Like if you see Blofeld from the previous movie, which the storyline also continues over here, he is definitely someone whom you think that he is mad, but he is a mad genius that he actually can control and take over such a big organization globally. But this Rami Malek person, not only is he incapable physically, he is also mentally not stable enough that he will be able to pull off such a big operation. The best he can do is probably be a lackey or someone who is working for someone bigger than him from higher up. It did not fit a James Bond movie, especially considering this is the last Daniel Craig James Bond movie. They should have had a better villain. And I would have even preferred if they had continued Blofeld, and in this movie, obviously, Rami Malek's character kills Blofeld, but I would have actually hoped that Blofeld would have flipped the script and would have killed Rami Malek, and Blofeld becomes the final villain that James Bond has to face off instead of this very weakly written villain character. I'm telling this especially because of the final action sequence in the island. It really did not feel like a James Bond movie or any big spy thriller or anything. It felt like a very generic action movie where there is some villain with some global world domination plan and the hero is trying to fight him. Even comparing with the low budget sci-fi movies, you would have a final confrontation with the hero and the villain. In this one, it is extremely disappointing. Without spoiling how it ends, it's very disappointing how they treated the villain of this entire movie. Okay, the next negative that I have is about the henchmen. Everyone knows James Bond movies are known to have iconic henchmen of the big bad. You have so many famous characters with specific traits which makes them like iconic. People remember their characters even though they were not the main villain. In this case, there is one character, Cyclops, who is supposedly the henchman, but he is extremely forgettable. Like in most James Bond movies, the James Bond has to struggle with the character only to succeed by some trick or some gadget towards the end of the movie. But here, from the beginning, the person is there. They have hand-to-hand confrontation, and James Bond easily defeats him. Like James Bond could have easily killed him multiple times throughout the movie, but he keeps on coming back for no reason. The only thing memorable about him is the name Cyclops because the X-Men reference, but the character itself is very boring, and he may be remembered for being one of the worst James Bond henchmen characters to fight. And the final negative that I've already talked about a bit was like the Blofeld character is completely wasted. If you're not willing to do or go anywhere with Blofeld, don't just bring him in to just kill him off. He is there in the prison cell, and he's there for one big monologue scene or a dialogue scene with James Bond, but other than that the character is completely wasted. Christopher Waltz plays this character excellently. He was great in the previous movie Spectre as well as in this movie for the small amount of time he is, but I would really say that Christopher Waltz was wasted. For just one scene you had to bring him in to kill him off, really unceremoniously too, I might add. It's really not serving the character right. I would have much preferred to have Blofeld be the final villain that Daniel Craig had to face off against rather than the villain that we got. Another small nitpick that I have about the writing of the James Bond scripts is that the Spectre agents that we saw in the previous movie as well, this issue was there, and even in this one, where clearly their motive is to kill James Bond. They even go so far as to take a weapon, a DNA targeted weapon, and use James Bond's DNA, bring him to a party, spray everyone with the chemicals so that James Bond can be dead. But they go so much, but you don't realize that James Bond so many times is being surrounded by Spectre agents without actually knowing that all of them are Spectre agents. Anyone could have pulled a gun and killed him. Like, he's not going to escape like a situation in John Wick or something. They could have easily killed him so many times in the previous movie also, but somehow it seems like the writing of the Blofeld character, the Spectre agents, is like they want to make a spectacle out of it. Again, the spectacle that no one else can see, only they can see, but they have to kill James Bond in a ceremonious way. If their objective is to directly kill him, why not just shoot him when you have the chance? That is one small issue that I have with the writing of the Spectre agents as well. So those are my pros and cons for the movie. Now moving on to the cast. I'm not going to go over all the cast members. There's a lot of people obviously. I'm just going to go over the cast members that I felt had most impression on me. So starting off with the cast members, of course, is Daniel Craig. So Daniel Craig's performance has been great. Like, if you have seen any of his other James Bond movies, he is performing the same. He's giving the same performance, and he is really good as a 00 agent. If you are a classic James Bond fan, you would never really think that he is a 007, but he is playing a different version of the character, and obviously he has made it his own, or rather the writing team has made it their own, and he is perfect to play this kind of James Bond. Even though he visually or aesthetically looks a little older or not as fit as he was in his previous movies, but his performance has just increased in quality. Like, he is giving his best performance as James Bond in this movie, and really there cannot be any negatives pointed to his performance in this movie. The next prominent cast member is Léa Seydoux. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. So I have not seen her in many movies outside of the James Bond couple of movies, but she gives a really good performance. I'm not sure or aware of if she is a good actress or not, but she is the best Bond girl that I have seen, or rather I would say this is an offensive term as a Bond girl, but she's the best actress that I've seen so far, along with Eva Green from Casino Royale, who has given a more meaty and more emotional performance in a James Bond movie. Like, you take any other James Bond film, the supposed Bond girls, they are really just eye candy. There's nothing much to them, but Léa Seydoux as well as Eva Green, these two actresses in these two movies especially, have given a very realistic and very emotional performance. For like half of the movie at least, I felt like she was the best part of the movie, and even when the movie ended, the focus was slightly shifted from her to more towards Daniel Craig, but whatever scenes she got, they were like really top-notch performance for the character that she was playing. Next most prominent cast member is Lashana Lynch. Again, not sure if the pronunciation is correct, but she plays the replacement Bond. She plays the character of 007, who is actually a replacement for James Bond since he had retired. So her relationship with James Bond has been a little combatant, but in most cases I felt that she was again, the writing let her down, because in many places it's clearly shown that she is not as efficient as James Bond. Many places James Bond is already like done fighting, he has come out of the situation, and then this girl comes in and sometimes even tries to take the hostage from James Bond, or takes the person of interest from James Bond away from him when James Bond has done all the work. So, and even at the end when she is actually helping, she is not that effective, I would say, compared to James Bond alone. So definitely a poorly written character, but I really liked the way she played it, and her acting was as good as she could do for the role that she was given. And the next prominent character is Rami Malek. Rami Malek is a great actor. I've seen him in multiple places, multiple movies where he has done really good. He is, I believe, an Oscar winner already. And even in this movie, for the lines that he was given, for the character that he was given to play, he did really good. But again, as I mentioned, I felt that the character was very poorly written, and the movie was very centric over James Bond and his personal life, and it had no meat to the villain character at all. Even though, like, in general, James Bond villains are not supposed to have like backstories or big reveals or anything, but this character, all he had was an emotional depth, an emotional performance, but the reasoning or the writing behind it was very weak, to the point that it always felt that he is actually mentally ill and he is not fit to be in that position that was shown to be. In one scene, he actually reaches over a child and throws a pillow in the air to show how easily, and his henchmen actually fire on the pillow to show that how easily he can kill the child. But anyone who has actually held a child, and especially someone as weak as Rami Malek is shown to be in this movie physically, he is not going to be able to throw the child with one hand in the air. Like, he can barely take one punch from James Bond and he dies. The next prominent cast member that I remember is Ana de Armas. So she is, I've seen her in multiple movies again by now, and she is really a very charming and bubbly young actress. This is the first time I'm seeing her as a action heroine, where I don't know if it's the incredible stunt work or she actually did any of the action scenes that she did, but the very small action scene that she had of hand-to-hand fighting is probably the best hand-to-hand fighting in the entire movie, even like better than the James Bond scenes. At least it was the most entertaining. All the other cast members, they have like very minor screen time, and they all do their part. There is not much anyone is stand out good or stand out bad. I would say Q is pretty good in this role. Unexpectedly, he has a very emotional performance. Overall, that's my thoughts on the cast members. So in conclusion, I would say that this movie is entertaining, definitely entertaining. If you're a James Bond fan, you must watch this movie. This is the final Daniel Craig James Bond movie, so that gives it a little more importance in the James Bond mythos. This movie also has fantastic action, great locations, surprising amount of humor. Like, you usually would not associate James Bond with humor, but maybe Daniel Craig improvised some of the scenes, but there is a lot of small quippy one-liners that will make you chuckle here and there. Another thing to note is I went to see this movie with two friends, one of them who is aware and have seen the other James Bond movies, and someone who has not seen a lot of James Bond movies. For a person who saw the James Bond movies, they said that it's very good, and their reaction was similar to mine, as in like, this is a very good James Bond movie and people should go out and watch this movie. But surprisingly, the person who is not aware of the James Bond movies or how the movies are usually are, he was very mediocre about the movie. His main point was action and performances were good, but there was no story content of the movie, and that is something they need to fix for James Bond, because especially in some of the later James Bond movies. If you see Spectre, if you see this one, the story of the movie or the drama of the movie is really limited. There is no big major character arcs for any of the characters involved in the movie. You follow James Bond, he does his stuff, he wins the day at the end of the movie, and that's it. And this is a formula that has been successful for a lot of years, but probably with the new audience who are not aware of or not very familiar with the James Bond movies, they are probably looking for something more, and that is something probably the creators of the movies or the future James Bond series should keep in mind. So that's it for my review and my thoughts. The overall rating for the movie I would say is around 7.5 out of 10. It is actually boosted by the fact that it is the last Daniel Craig James Bond movie, but also it is actually pulled down because of the very weak villain plot that this movie has. So overall average of 7.5. If you're a good James Bond fan, or if you are interested in James Bond, you should definitely go and see the movie. If not, you can probably skip the movie. It's not a must watch movie in my opinion. Thank you, thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Thank you, bye.